order the meeting of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen for Tuesday, August the 17th. I do not have any changes to the agenda. Ashley, do you have any?
No, ma'am.
All right, then if we could have a motion to adopt the agenda for the meeting.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? A quick mayor's report. We received our sales tax numbers today, and as I always repeat, they are the revenues from 2 months prior. So these are the tax revenues that were collected in June. June is always a little bit lower than May, because in May we always have graduation, of course, and this year we had 2 graduations and some regional baseball. So our sales tax came in at $956,649.76, which is down 1% from last month, but it's up 27% from June of 2020, and it's also up from June of 2019, which is really what we refer back to see how we're tracking along. Our 2% food and beverage tax came in at $292,271.42. It is down 12% from last month, but up 42% from June of 2020 and also up from June of 2019. The hotel motel tax came in at $43,483.95, up 4% from last month and up 105% from June 2020. It's down $100 from what we collected the same month in June 2019. So we have spent many hours on our budget over the past few weeks, and you will see it this evening for its final form for presentation. Our engineering, planning, building and grounds, Oxford utilities departments have successfully gotten Jackson Avenue East open before the planned date, and it is amazing. I encourage all of you to take a stroll down. They got the crosswalks stamped this morning, and it all looks amazing. So thank you to all of the city folks who made that happen. Bart and I met with Hope Housing Partners from New Orleans last week, and we were excited to hear their plans for creating some much needed quality housing for some of the workforce in Oxford, and I hope that we will have more information regarding their plans soon. I spoke to the Lucky Day Scholars at Ole Miss this morning, and it reminded me how important these excited new 18 and 19-year-olds are for our community. And so they are back and excited to be here. We'll have on our agenda here in a moment the opportunity to review our COVID numbers and to discuss our hospital capacities, but we did have a pop-up vaccination site next to City Hall today, and Jimmy will update us on those numbers in a minute, but it was very successful, and we are working with Larson's Big Star and Oxford Community Market to start doing some pop-up vaccination sites at both of those places in the coming week. So that is it for the mayor's report. I will ask you all to authorize the approval of the minutes of the recess meeting on August 2nd, the recess meeting on August 3rd, the regular meeting on August 3rd, the recess meeting on August 4th, special meeting on August 9th, and special meeting on August 12th. And I had one change to the minutes, I'm sorry, when.
Go ahead.
And so have you made that change, okay?
All right. I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Authorize the approval of accounts for all city departments.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, if you would please consider the consent agenda before you.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I don't see Sue Fairbanks.
No, that's my error.
Here tonight, okay.
That's my error.
Okay, no worries.
Bart, I think, is going to take it.
Okay. Consider a resolution authorizing the city to enter into an interlocal cooperation agreement with the Lafayette County Board of Supervisors for financing costs in connection with the Oxford Farms TIF. Bart.
And I did think Sue was going to be here, so I didn't get up too far,
okay.
but I'll be glad to answer any questions. The interlocal agreement with the county sets out what the county will pay for on the TIF. The big point to recognize is that they're only participating in the road portion of the TIF, so water and sewer infrastructure will be all on us as far as the TIF goes.
Right.
Any questions?
Nope.
Any questions for Bart?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Consider a resolution authorizing the city to enter into a development and reimbursement agreement with Oxford Farms LLC in connection with the Oxford Farms TIF.
This is, like you said, development reimbursement agreement. It's the The TIF for Oxford Farms is $5.25 million, with no more than 5.5 going to the developer. The other part is soft cost. It is for Oxford Way, but our portion of Oxford Way would include other infrastructure such as water, sewer, storm drain, lighting, those sorts of things that the county would normally participate in. Okay.
Move we approve.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Now, Donna, if you want to come up, Donna Zampella will give us an Oxford University Transit update. Thank you, Chris.
Good evening. Just wanted to give you all a quick update of what Oxford Transit has been doing the last few months or so. We decided to change our routes instead of it being Blue East, Blue West, to put route numbers. So it'll then be Blue East Route 1, Blue West Route 2. In doing that, it just kind of helps when I developed a new map where they can be able to see a number, to go down and look to see what one is, to know what route that is. In doing that, we decided to update our signs. We just got these in today, so not all of the signs will have this, but some of the big stops that we have will be at,
Looks great.
Will be at the top. And then we'll have, it says bus stop, and this one will be under it. So
Perfect.
the bus route number is 12, which is teal, which is one of our new routes we've got. So the color is teal, and then what stop they're at, which would be the stop at the Chevron. So
Awesome.
they will know what stop they're at. And it is color coded based on, yeah. So it'll be the round one and then the two small ones right up under it. So the big round one won't be on all of them since some of the stops are pretty close, so
Right.
it'll be sectioned out. So we added a few new routes, and we didn't have to add new buses to these routes. We just moved routes around to make it more efficient and to get the best miles out of what we're doing. So we added a new route, which was the teal down South Lamar, which will cover doctor's offices and the Cancer Institute, and down Azalea Gardens area. We added a brown line, which took away yellow, and we added two browns, a brown, which is Route 8, and Brown 11, which is covering the Anderson Road area and College Hill area. So one will go one way, the other come back the other way, so it'll be two. We've had really good success. These buses started on August the 2nd, and so we've had real good ridership so far on those. We revised our orange route to incorporate the last polling site that was not ever covered by transit, is now covered by the orange route, so they will have access to transit during voting time.
Awesome.
And then Blue East, we incorporated the affordable housing complexes, so now they have buses going in and out of those areas. So the university route started yesterday, and nothing really changed on them except for a few times. I developed a new map. So before we had 14 maps to go with 14 routes. So now we have one map. And I got you all a little baby map so y'all can see. And that's in color. So the one I have is gonna be it's gonna be this big. And as you open it up, you'll see the big map in the center. All these maps will be available at a lot of our stores and on the bus itself. And on the I thought the baby maps were really cute, so.
They are.
DocuMart works on this really hard for us, and so she gave me a little baby map to give out so you can see the actual colors and what it really look like. FTA ruled for our budget year of 2021 and 2022 to pay 100% of the operation except for the salary. And it also includes our insurance. So we're looking at the 20% estimated savings of $560,000. So that's good for the
Absolutely.
that. FTA is also working to try and get for the next budget year, 22-23, to have everything at 80-20. Nothing will be at 50-50. So that's really good. Our commissioners met today and approved one more year of zero fare due to COVID and us not really wanting to mess with the money. And so it will be zero fare for another year. We also have all new uniforms for our drivers that have shirts and pants. They look very well, and so we're excited about our new look. Our GPS system has now a new passenger app, so you can go download an app at the App Store, and it's QRYDE, and that's QRYDE /Oxford University Transit. You can plan your routes, so passengers can put in, I'm here on the square and I want to go to Walmart, and it will tell them exactly where to go and how to catch the bus to get there.
That's great.
It also has live tracking, so you can see where the buses are. You might see white buses that are riding around. Those are loaner buses. The 8 buses that we received recently did not meet specifications that I wanted, nor the quality as far as the bus running every day, which did not. Sent them all back at no cost to us, loaners that are at no cost to us, and they are building me 8 new buses. So
Wonderful.
that is that. And our open house is set for Thursday. Got your message, and
John Morgan will be there to represent this board.
yep, so we invite everyone to come and look at the new facility and our renovation. We're very proud of it, and we're just trying to help move Oxford forward.
Well, you're doing a great job, and we thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr.
All right, consider a petition from the residents of Brittany Woods Subdivision regarding ingress and egress to their subdivision. I'll pass it to Keisha.
I would just like to submit the petitions on behalf of Brittany Woods, Brittany Estates, Eastover, and Cannon Road, expressing their safety concerns for one, ingress and egress to their neighborhood. They are asking the board for a northern connection to Buddy's Parkway. And the petition is a formal request. I also personally would like to thank this board for budgeting for a connecting road for Brittany Woods, Eastover, Brittany Estates. I appreciate y'all hearing my constituents, hearing them, and trying to move forward.
All right, thank you, Keisha.
Thank you.
All right, COVID-19 update and CDC recommendations. Jimmy Allgood, front and center. Here we are back.
Good afternoon. I'll start out with our pop-up vaccination site. When I left out of there and they still had about 15 minutes to go, they had done 41 individuals with
Awesome.
vaccinations. And it was a combination of new vaccinations, second shots, and booster shots. So, and we had a good mix. We had college students coming in, we had older individuals coming in, so it seemed like we covered the gamut of the community and everything. And we're gonna be doing this several more times throughout the next couple of months.
Well, we are excited to be able to offer this pop-up option, and, you know, as we have promoted, this gives people the opportunity to talk to a doctor, to ask questions. And so, you know, we are encouraging people through our social media, if they have questions about the vaccination, you hear often people saying, go ask your doctor. We encourage you to ask your doctor. Well, there are a lot of folks that don't have a doctor on call to call and say, hey, what do you think, you know? And so we think this is a great opportunity to provide people with a doctor that's sitting there to answer questions as well. And we think that's as important as the shots that we're offering. So again, we did it today in front of City Hall. We will do it every Friday of home football games.
Correct.
In this same location. And we are working on Larson's Big Star, and they've already agreed to allow us to set one up there and at the Oxford Community Market.
Correct.
So moving in the right direction, getting shots in arms.
And
So,
also, one thing that I was just informed right before I came up here from the Webb Clinic, who's doing this with us, is they're also going to bring the materials and supplies to do walk-in testing. So they'll do free walk-in testing
Great.
on those dates where we have the shot location at. Then we'll also have free walk-in testing if you need a test.
That's great. Thank you.
As far as numbers, today's numbers, the state had a total of 3,323 cases with 67 deaths. Locally, we went up to 7,098 cases, which was an increase of 21 new cases from yesterday. Our hospital numbers, you have those, Mayor.
Yeah, we had 33 in regular beds that were COVID positive today, and we had 10 in ICU, and all the beds are full still. Now, again, I want to state that they are not turning anyone away. If you go to the emergency room, they will see you. You may stay in the emergency room longer before you go upstairs or what have you, so I don't want to make it sound like if you go to the emergency room, you won't be seen. If you need emergency health care, please go to the emergency room. But please get vaccinations so that we are not filling up these hospital beds with COVID patients when we have people who need these beds, so.
And on your sheet, you got the vaccination numbers have changed a little bit. When I made this morning, they had only updated it through the 16th, but they now have the 17th included. Our Lafayette County residents with at least one dose, we have 26,735, which is 49% of the county. Lafayette County residents that are fully vaccinated, we have 23,775 for a total number of doses of 49,575 doses. And as of August, from July the 15th to August the 12th, 98% of the new cases of COVID in the state are unvaccinated individuals. 2% of the new cases came from fully vaccinated individuals.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy. Are there any recommendations or requirements that anyone would like to consider tonight? I know we've all gotten quite a few emails from people playing pickleball requesting that not wear masks, and we also have continued to get quite a few from people requesting that there be a mask mandate. So anybody have any thoughts?
I'd like to talk about the pickleball. It's something I started talking about Thursday night and just didn't get a lot of traction. And right after the meeting, I started getting phone calls and emails. And you know, while we had our Serving Oxford Safely plan, we allowed them to play pickleball without masks. The majority, if not all, of the pickleball players have been fully vaccinated. They have a protocol where they wear their mask while they're through the building going to the court, but it's becoming a safety hazard for them to try to play pickleball with a mask on. I got an email this afternoon from one of the players that wears a Fitbit, and his heart rate today after playing was higher than his doctor's stress test. He never goes over 130, and he hit 130 today. Normally he's hitting about 110, 115 heart rate, and his resting heart rate is normally 40. So he's in very good shape, but trying to play pickleball with the mask on is just creating a health concern that I don't think we had any intent of doing. So I think they have a very good protocol, a safe protocol. I don't know how many people are familiar with pickleball, but it's the fastest growing sport in the United States, especially for those 55 and older. And they have safe ways to play the sport and exercise. So I would like to make the recommendation that I'd like to make a motion that they don't have to wear a mask while exercising at pickleball. But
What would you consider if they have been vaccinated, they don't have to wear a mask at pickleball, or no?
I would love to say that, but I don't know if we have the right to require their vaccination card.
Oh, I mean, if the policy is,
Provide proof of vaccination.
They've offered that, so I will make that part of my motion. If you're vaccinated, you do not have to wear a mask while playing pickleball, but keep your mask on while you're moving through the rest of the building.
Second.
all right, any comments or questions? All in favor? I'm sorry.
That's okay. I mean, I think there ought to be some sort of honor system here too.
I think so too.
I mean, if somebody says they're vaccinated and they don't have it, I mean, I hate to say, or maybe they show it once, I don't know, I just hate for people to come up like they gotta wear it on their sleeve, every time to play.
I've had a doctor ask me what the difference is. He had COVID, and so he has the antibodies. And so what is the difference between somebody that has had COVID, recovered, versus somebody that's been vaccinated? His question was, shouldn't the person that's had it and recovered be in the same situation as somebody that's vaccinated?
I think there are a lot of different issues that we can't touch on, but if our general feeling is that you should wear masks indoors and people are breathing hard and playing pickleball, I'd like to know they're vaccinated for our employees that are there and for everyone else. But that's just me, and we all know I don't get to vote, so that's.
I'll keep that motion that way for the next 2 weeks, that if you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask while playing pickleball.
I
still would like to say that they just have to, if you're gonna keep that motion, it sounds like it's gonna pass, I'd just rather them show it once. I don't think that they have to go every time.
No, I'm right there with you, yeah.
Okay,
It's the same people playing, so once they show it, it's, you know.
okay.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
All right, are there any other COVID restrictions or discussion that you want to talk about? All right, thank you, Jimmy. We will move to request permission to approve and authorize Jimmy Allgood to sign the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program Agreement for the Cemetery Creek Project as the City of Oxford's grant applicant agent. This grant requires a 25% grant match from the city in the amount of $142,899.72.
Motion made. Second.
All in favor? Any opposed?
And the total
Yeah, you
grant
wanna-
amount is $575,000, of which our share is the 142.
Awesome. We love a grant that works that way. Thank you, Jimmy. All right, this is a public hearing on our fiscal year 2021-2022 municipal budget that this board has spent untold amount of hours going through and meeting with all of our department heads. And so I've got a few things I want to mention, but I'm going to actually kind of give an overview of it as we start.
Yep, I'll just hit the high spots. As you can see, and attached to the agenda is the format in which we'll adopt the agenda. We'll adopt the budget at our first meeting in September. It's a very boiled down version. It just gives all the totals and everything. So I'll just kind of hit, like I said, I'll hit the highlights. I'll start with the most positive thing that I think the taxpayers will appreciate is that there will actually be a mill rate decrease. The board voted to decrease.
You heard that correct.
Yes.
Tax decrease.
0.52 mills, or roughly $250,000. City taxpayers will see their property taxes and their car tags go down slightly. The city's assessed value increased from $458 million in 2021 year to $482 million in 2021-2022, and that's an increase of approximately $24 million in value, or 6%. Our projected revenue for fiscal year 2021-2022 is $34.2 million, which is up from $32.4 million in fiscal year 2020-2021, or about 5.56%. Our projected expenses for 2021-2022 are $40.6 million, which is up from $36.2 million in fiscal year 2021. $4.3 million, or 12%, is the increase there, and most of that is due to rebudgeting for items that were put on hold or not purchased in previous fiscal years, or COVID-related postponements. Our sales tax collections, 2%, food and beverage collections, and hotel motel collections are all rebounding from previous COVID-related declines. So like the mayor stated earlier, that's all good. Citywide, over $2.2 million in machine and equipment requests are budgeted in the upcoming fiscal year, and over $2 million in projects are also budgeted to be completed in the upcoming fiscal year. And I think the mayor's going to touch on some of those specific ones. But overall, we are now in the proofreading process of the budget. We'll start error checking and making sure things are where they're supposed to be.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ashley. And our city clerk's office has certainly been hard at work getting all of this pulled together. A few things that I wanted to mention. You know, this board, we started talking about as we entered the budget process about what made us successful as we come out of the first round of the pandemic. And the answer every time was our people. And so it was our employees and the citizens of Oxford who hung with us and endured the frustrations of getting through that first round of the pandemic. And so it was very important to the board that we say thank you in a tangible way to both our employees and the citizens of Oxford. As Ashley mentioned, we have implemented a 0.52 mil decrease in taxes for our citizens this year, and that's putting our money where our mouth is. And we also have approved a raise for every full-time employee that was hired before April. And we are offering our employees beginning October 1st either $2,500 or a 4% increase, whichever is larger for them. So we are really excited that we were able to do this. And the reason we were is because everybody tightened their belt over the past 2 years. And our department heads, as we started moving into COVID and saying, okay, we don't order the equipment that's approved, no seasonal workers, cut the travel, no capital expenditures, everybody made it work, and we pulled together, and the grass may have been high in some areas around town, and there may have been a few days that we didn't get everything done that Oxford residents are used to seeing us do, but everybody tightened their belt, and that allows us to give back to both our employees and our residents now. I think that people will be excited to hear that we will be hosting some community meetings, hopefully in the near future, to talk about what our community wants to see in a new community pool. You know, we've got a lot of folks that are swim team folks and people that enjoy utilizing our community pool, and so we'll host some meetings to see what the community would like to see, and we've set aside money to start the design for that. We also set aside funds in this proposed budget to complete a splash pad near the skate park and to turf the 2 remaining fields at M-Trade Park. You know, the legislature, as I've pointed out, generously gave us $250,000 in the bond bill this past year to do a park that will be between City Hall and Square Books Jr. We set aside some additional funds there, knowing that that will be a great gateway to our square from a large parking area, and will provide a place that's free to come and sit and watch people walk by, read the newspaper, or eat some ice cream. And we are seeking additional funding through grants that we've applied for that project. Of course, infrastructure is always at the top of our priority list, and the alderman budgeted to begin design of a roadway that's been on our project list for about 10 or 12 years, connecting Piggy's Road and Ed Perry Boulevard, which will provide us another ingress and egress from the Oxford Commons development out to University Avenue. As y'all have heard me mention many times before, we've gotten MDOT funding combined with city and county funding to push forward to redo the intersection of University Avenue and Highway 7. And with this new connection, it'll really open up this east side of our community. Funds were also set aside, as Keisha mentioned just a moment ago, to build a connector road from the Brittany Woods subdivision out to FD Buddy East Parkway, and also in Mr. Taylor's ward to make some improvements to Gator Road. He's only been asking for that for about 20 years. We will do some sewer and water infrastructure projects that we will utilize the American Recovery Plan funds for. You know, we annexed about 10 square miles, a little over 10 square miles in 2018, and so this will certainly help us improve our water and sewer to those areas. February snowstorm did not do our roadways any favors, and or our equipment, as we used all of it, and it all, you know, was pretty banged up there in the end. And it also left some really big potholes, and so we have set aside an additional $700,000 for this next year for paving projects to hopefully get a little bit ahead on some of those road needs. The Oxford Police and Fire Departments will be adding additional officers. Funds are set aside to complete the fire department, the new fire station that's on FD Buddy East Parkway, and we hope in the coming year or two to transition a building that we own on Industrial Park Drive into a new Oxford Police Department. We'll have new software coming out hopefully in the next month or so for our building, planning, and engineering departments that will allow developers in Oxford to track their project, kind of like you track a FedEx package. And this has been a long time in the making because they have developed this software system specifically for our departments. And so that's going to be really exciting for us as development's picking back up. And this is our first year to fund the Animal Resource Center as a city department, and I think that this board has done that well and has really made an investment in animal welfare for our community. So that just kind of tip of the iceberg, but it gives you an overview of some of the projects, capital projects, equipment, and new employees, as well as some bonuses or salary increases that we were allowed to, by tightening our belt, figure out to thank our employees and our citizens. So more than you probably ever wanted to know, but this is a public hearing and a first reading of our budget. Is there anybody here who would like to comment on the budget? You will have another chance, but that is a first.
Mayor, I just want to say to all of our employees out there that I'm just glad that the rest of this board was amicable to my idea of, no.
All right, moving along. Request permission to advertise for bids for automated garbage collection carts. Amberlyn? That's right.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, I would like to ask permission to advertise for bids for automated garbage carts.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? And that, of course, is budgeted in this new budget. Come on up, Mike Young. Request permission for 5 employees to attend the National Recreation and Park Association Annual Conference in Nashville, Tennessee on September 2021 at an estimated cost of $5,000.
Yes, ma'am. That's, like the mayor said, our board approved 5 staff members to go there for our national conference in Nashville. We'll be going to go to different classes under our responsibilities from the Park Commission.
All right, you may have any questions?
Seth sent me a list of questions to ask him, see if you remember. I'm just
Come on, Rick.
So moved.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Consider a work authorization for professional services associated with the substation maintenance. Rob Neely.
Hi, so in your packets, you've got work authorization for work associated with maintenance and testing at our 3 electrical substations. Our consulting engineer, Alan Hoschel, can provide those services, and I've just included their price list and kind of the list of scope of work. And we just need to take care of this so we can maintain the substations throughout the year and, prevent any issues that sometimes arrive when you don't maintain your equipment.
I move to approve.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, Rob. Second reading, public hearing and vote on a proposed ordinance amending section 14-100E6, camera systems and requirements. Chief McCutcheon.
Good evening. We made no changes to our last meeting, so it's still the same, and essentially the change is you don't have 30 days for one violation. If you're in violation, you have 30 days to get it fixed, or you're in a second violation. It's just a change in really word that gives a little bit of a loophole to them right now.
Okay. Any questions from the board? This is a second reading and public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this change in ordinance? All right, hearing none, we will move forward. I request, I'm sorry.
Mayor, considering there was no public comment and this is a safety concern, could we vote on it this evening?
I think so.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, any other questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you.
And may we implement immediately, considering the safety issues associated?
Making that finding.
The motion needs.
I add that to my motion.
With those safety concerns, health safety concerns.
Add that to my motion, please. Thank you.
All right. Request permission to accept a grant from the Mississippi Office of Highway Safety for 405D alcohol and drug impaired driving funding training coordination for FY 21-22 in the amount of $581,449.45.
This is just requesting to accept the money that we've already asked to apply for.
Right.
No match.
No match.
So moved.
All in favor? Any opposed? Request permission to accept a grant from the Mississippi Office of Highway Safety for 405D alcohol and drug impaired driving for enforcement for FY 21-22 in the amount of $123,240.37.
No match.
No match.
So moved.
All in favor? Any opposed? Request permission to accept a grant from the Mississippi Office of Highway Safety for 402 Police Traffic Services funding for FY 21-22 in the amount of $14,599.20.
No match.
So moved.
All in favor? Any opposed? All right. Approve multiple event permits for Visit Oxford for events on September the 10th and 17th, October the 8th and 22nd, November the 5th, 12th, and 19th, 2021. Chief.
Mayor, this is Tunes Around Town that we kicked off last year, so we'll have multiple locations throughout the district in downtown. Those are the dates that we're requesting to be able to do this.
All right. Does anybody have any questions? I know Kenny's here if you've got any questions about those events. This has been our effort to create lots of smaller events rather than large events that attract big crowds, and it was very successful for us as we were moving out of COVID and back in.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Any opposed? Request permission for the University Student Activities Association to host a homecoming parade on Friday, October the 8th from 5 until 7.
We will block traffic from University Avenue around the square, and then they will find their way back either South Lamar or Jackson Avenue.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? All right, request permission for OPC to reserve parking spaces in front of City Hall, in front of the RSVP Plaza for movie night on August 27th.
Yes, ma'am. So we just want to block those traffic lanes next week, and then Seth and his team will have the projection going there at the plaza.
Okay.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Request permission for Tunnel to Towers to host a 5K walk run on September the 4th from 6:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m.
Mayor, they will leave OPC, head up University Avenue to the square, and then loop back to the Oxford Police Department there. We'll block traffic for them.
All right. Any questions?
Say that one more time.
They're gonna leave the Coach House Center, probably out the back, coming out of Molly Bar, and then they'll head up to University from Washington. They'll make the loop around the Grove, and then head south of Martin to the square and then back.
Just want to make sure Jason had that route so you can do it.
All right, is there a motion to approve the Tunnel to Towers run? Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Request permission for Nicholas Ayer to host a 5K run on October the 2nd, 2021 at 2:00 p.m.
Similar event going from the airport and will eventually end at South Lamar Court.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Any opposed? All right. Consider a request from Griffin Tanner for special event permits for Harrison Yard on 9/10 through 9/12, which is the University of Mississippi versus Austin Peay, 9/16 through 9/18, Ole Miss versus Tulane, 9/24 and 25 for a blues festival, October 7th through the 9th for the University of Mississippi versus Arkansas, 10/21 to 10/23, University of Mississippi versus LSU, 11/4 to 11/6 versus Liberty, 11/11 through 11/13 Texas A&M, and 18/20 versus Vanderbilt. And I know Griffin's here to make that request.
My name's Griffin Tanner. Thank you, Mayor and Board, for letting us come tonight. As you know, those are big tourism weekends, and with the change in the ordinance that y'all have recently made, we have worked the best that we could with the city, with the police, and trying to be neighborly. It's been very difficult to hit 70 decibels with live music. When we do acoustical music, we're pretty close, but we would like to have some bigger shows and bring in some better name music. And to do this, we would like to ask to go back to the original 85 decibels that you originally approved in the ordinance, or that if you were not comfortable with that, maybe looking at a time frame that may make more sense. Maybe 11 o'clock would be too late, go to 10 or 10:30, or just looking at it on a game-to-game basis. We are working with Vault Entertainment and are on the agenda for August 28th to erect a structure over our stage that would hopefully soundproof our neighbors and project towards University Avenue and keep us under the 70 decibels. But until we can get that approved and then erected, maybe the first game or just the first two, with some leniency. We're just having a lot of trouble being under 70 decibels at the street.
I guess I'll make a couple comments on that, and Griffin and I talked a little bit. I can't support this on football weekends when we already have crowds in town. You know, part of this is I can support the Blues weekend. It's not a football weekend. But on a regular weekend when we already have the crowds here and the people are here, I have trouble supporting this. And then I talked to the chief about enforcement, and I defer to OPD on the enforcement because they're the ones that are going to have to enforce the ordinance. The way the ordinance is written now, they have some leniency on the 70 and 80, where it can go to 75, 85. You know, we've talked about that, you know, 78 is kind of that magic number that the officers can't hear the radios on the street if it's above 78. If we do a special permit and we permit at 75, 85, if you cross that 75, 85, that permit's pulled and you're shut down. And so it almost hurts you to have that permit because you run a higher risk of you could be in your first 30 minutes of the show and hit 78, 79, and you're shut down for the rest of the evening. So, and Chief can elaborate a little bit more on that, but that's my concern is special permitting on football weekends. So that's my opinion on it.
We'll let Chief come up and address that if you want to.
While he's coming up, I thought we decided, or we talked about at one of the meetings that no matter what we set it at a special event, we weren't gonna all of a sudden, that we're gonna have to have, I mean, the way music is, you gotta have a little leeway before you just shut somebody down. I mean, you can't just say because somebody said they just hit 76, they gotta close down.
And there's a time value average measurement, but I'll let Chief.
Okay.
Because they're the ones that have to enforce it, so.
We have to stand there, and then we will take the reading, and we'll do it over a minute, and then we will, you basically click a button, and from that time gap, it gives you an average of what that is. Now, ultimately, the goal is, if it's within a moderate range, then we go and say, hey, can you bring it down? We're showing a time domain of 73 or 75. I think outside of that, you know, it's excessive at that point. So that's been our goal. But there is an issue. I know you mentioned the Blues weekend. We already have a permit for the Blues weekend. The historical monument will go up on the county property that day. And so for me, I don't know that we can have a blues festival, you know, 150 yards away from where we'll have that gathering as well. I think that will be something that.
Probably not the same time. Yeah, maybe the same time.
It is. It would run through that same event. So that would be one that we would request to deny.
When is that one being requested?
The 25th, it's the 24th and the 25th. So the 24th is fine, but we already have a permitted event with the city and the county for the 25th.
That we've already granted.
From 2 to 5 that has been approved by you guys.
But you basically mean because we won't have the people to man it?
No, we would have the people, the volume of the events that they're doing at both facilities, and then we will be, for the 25th, we've already been staffed to make sure we get everyone across. So if there's crowds here, we're already gonna have an overtime detail here, making sure that the 25th monument event is secured. So it would be a manpower issue, but also you've got two conflicting, and the way our ordinance reads, within time and location of each other, the first one gets it, the second one is denied.
I have another question that's kind of off the subject, but, so how loud, Jeff or Griffin, would, if there was no band at all, but your place down here was packed with people, how loud would that register?
We did some sample readings. Really, when the first couple weekends that Harrison's had this going on, and Mark and I talked today, I was standing in Nuke's parking lot about midway, and a small crowd. I mean, it's probably was 100 people in there, and it's going to register in the 60s. So but one of the things that Mark and I discussed today is maybe we need some information from Dave. We've not experienced where large crowds make it. You would think it would amplify it up, so you'd have band and loud talking, but it's almost like when you think about radar and two vehicles, when you have one car speeding and then the other larger car may not be, you don't get a double reading. You pick up on what is the loudest that's coming. So that's what we believe we're seeing with our sample noise. You're not getting the crowd at 65 and then the band at 72 that combines that for a total score. You're really getting the loudest sound coming out of there.
And some of the things that they've discussed, and this is part of Dave's expertise in it, is that the larger crowd that you have, the less the sound waves propagate, because you have more people in the crowd to absorb the sound. So a larger crowd, they could have the music up a little bit louder within the property, and it won't exit the property as far as the music goes because of the larger crowd. And that's just something that you have to experience and test and continue to measure.
So back to the Blues Festival, it's a 2-day event, the other one is not.
Correct. So Friday would be fine. Saturday, I feel like that's going to be a conflict of interest.
So wait, what time is the Friday event for the monument?
The monument Saturday.
Or what time is it Saturday?
2 to 5.
They start the Blues Festival after?
I believe the permit is requested from 10 to 10. Is that correct?
I'm sure we could adjust if that was a deciding factor.
I think
Saturday is 11.
for the Blues, so 11 to 10, and then the monument is from 2 to 5.
I mean, I just wondered when the permit's from 2 to 5, when is the actual ceremony?
My understanding, now it's been a little bit since we've had a conversation about it, but my understanding is that they will have the ceremony on the courthouse lawn at around 2, and then they have asked the special event permit that you all approved maybe at our last meeting or 2 ago is to block off the parking in front of City Hall, and they're going to have a meal and event in the street there after the unveiling of the monument. But that's all I know. I mean, I don't know the exact times of those 2 things, but it's not just the unveiling of the monument. It's an event after it that is, we approved for them to utilize the parking in front of City Hall for.
And they're not having any live music or anything?
I
just think it's a conversation we need to have with the coordinators of the monument to see, because I mean, the Blues Festival is one of those that's gonna bring people to town. Yeah. It's a 2-day event, and they're doing Friday. Or 10th annual event. Yeah, it's a 10th annual event. I know the first come, first serve rule applies, but I think it's something that we need to accommodate and see if we can't make it happen.
We can reach out to them and
see exactly what the plans are.
What their concerns are.
I might add that, in our research that we've done daily, even right now we have a cicada problem in Oxford. That's registering at 72 right there on Harrison Avenue. Now the police are working with us and aware of that. There's a couple hours there at night that's setting it off. A car driving up the street, if they're measuring on that street, will set us over the decibel level. Obviously any kind of heavy machine or anything like that is going to be over the sound ordinance. And I think we kind of can get stuck in, what's over 70 and what is it, like you said, crowd noise. I don't think the sound ordinance was written to police crowd noise. And you are correct that the more of a crowd that is there should dissipate the sound waves coming from a speaker. But I think it's, you know, something to look at, you know, that we're happy to play with and again, work with y'all. And hopefully we get approved on this next thing and it solves a lot of our problems. But we are a venue.
The next thing being the stage.
Cover.
Cover.
Yes, ma'am. And so I think though that we are a commercial business like any other commercial business on the square that are, you know, trying to do business, and having events and bands is a way that we attract our customer base just like any other business that, you know, we are the first of our kind, and there's been some others that have popped up, but, you know, tourism on the square, the energy on the square is something that we're trying to sell and create, and, you know, we're kind of stuck on these numbers, and I think there is a way to work together, and we've done that with the police thus far, and will continue to, but we just know that on these big weekends, if it's not us they're complaining about, it's probably going to be something else, and we're just trying to check a box to keep it from being us.
So tell me again, Griffin, the time frame of, I know that there's a special called HPC meeting for you to present your stage design that is soundproofing of sort. I don't know, I don't understand enough of it to know, but I know it's supposed to at least have the sound directed. So what is the date that you believe that you would have that constructed, just out of curiosity?
If we're approved on the 28th, it should take about 2 weeks to get everything in, barring any of the crazy shipping in the world today. It is a temporary structure that we're putting up until we're approved for our next phase that can be taken up and put down each day. We plan on leaving it up indefinitely until we start our next phase, but so I would imagine 2.5 weeks is pretty safe.
All right, board, what is your?
I don't have a problem with the special event for the Blues, because that's the only one in town. But everybody's got a band or doing something for football weekend, so that doesn't make it special, and that's my problem. It's taking advantage of a permit, which is not to take you out of the scope of others and give you an exception when everybody else is going to be in and of itself playing outside of a special event permit. That's just my issue.
And I also agree that we probably need to work with the Blues Festival, because they're gonna bring a lot of people in town, and especially setting for them. But probably we can just work with them to get the people here.
So my question is, on the Blues Festival, should we table it? When is it? The 24th of this month?
Another is September.
No, September.
So I think if we wait till the next meeting, which will be the 7th September, to be able to gather our information about the monument.
But I think they need time to plan it too.
I think they've got it. From my opinion is, I mean, we're going to approve it. I just want to make sure we're approving it with the stipulation that we work things out with the monument.
Well, I think that, you know, and I would be interested in Pope's take, you know, the ordinance, when we put a special event clause in there, it was for a person holding a parade or event on the street or a city-sponsored event, although I think that the way we've got it worded allows Griffin full authority to come and ask for this special event. We really weren't thinking about it for special events for venues. That the sound ordinance, I think our intention was that it addressed what the sound levels were, whether it's football weekend or regular weekend. So if we're going to make adjustments, you may consider adjusting the sound ordinance. I mean, I don't, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't think that we set this ordinance up necessarily for different venues to come and ask for special events. I mean, it reads that it's for parades, events in the street as approved by the mayor and board, and I think it's for homecoming parades and the one-time unveiling of the lynching memorial and a double-decker or a, you know what I'm saying? So I would just say that we, you know, if the board is leaning towards loosening the requirements instead of a specific venue coming and asking for 9, you know what I mean? It would seem if you're okay with it for 9 weekends, then you should consider changing the limit of you know, we got this way a while back over where people kept asking for variances to build buildings 3.5 feet taller all around the square, and we were saying yes every time. So finally it was like, well, if we're okay with that all the time, then let's change the ordinance to read that's 38 feet rather than 35. But that's kind of what I see us doing here. If you're in fact okay with it being louder on football game weekends, then maybe you need to revisit the sound ordinance. Does that make sense?
I don't think we are comfortable with being louder on football weekends. I think
Okay.
I think that this one falls into that special event because it is a festival on a non-weekend.
You think the Blues Festival does, not the football?
That
Okay, I'm with you.
will require additional police force than what you would normally have on that weekend, it being a non-football weekend. And there's not a special event attached to our board pack. What was the DBAs or the times, or I don't have any of that in my.
Because we don't really have a special event permit for the sound ordinance. I mean, there's nothing to fill out other than saying here are the dates. We don't.
We can't say they can't have a blues festival if it's inside Harrison. I mean, it's there.
Yeah, I mean, I think what the mayor said, Rick, and what you said are both correct, and that is that the special event or parade permit, we have one in place. And that is for events that are held on public streets, public areas that have to get our permission. He doesn't have to get our permission for this. And the waiver of the sound is for special events and parades that we give permission for.
Yes.
If we start getting the habit of giving permission to break our ordinance, to change our ordinance.
No, we just need to change the ordinance.
Because that's what this is. This is a private property special event permit that we normally give for public property events.
Right.
And I don't see how it fits, and I don't see how you waive an ordinance that has a criminal penalty to it. I think I don't know that y'all have the authority to waive your own ordinance. You can change it. You can change your ordinance. And you can change it in one meeting with one public hearing, as long as you've got in writing the change for the public to come consider.
But once we change it, it's changed for everybody, y'all.
Correct. And I think that's exactly what the law is supposed to be, that y'all aren't able to pick a certain person and change a city ordinance for that person.
Well, let me ask you this. All right, so I was actually gonna say earlier, but I'm not now, is that I didn't really care whether or not.
We are.
Well, I'm saying it, but then I didn't care whether or not we gave him this for the football game weekends, because it's crazy anyway on the football game. But it doesn't sound like we're gonna do that. But are you telling us now we can't go ahead and do this for the Blues Festival?
Yeah, well, that's what I think.
It's not our blues festival. He's having it himself.
I know, but I guess he's interpreting it as if we give him a special event permit, it can be louder.
Correct, and y'all can give special event permits for things on public ground, like double decker, that's what this is written for, or like someone with a loudspeaker for a specific event or parade or other.
OPC movie night, the different, which won't be louder, but I'm just saying, I mean, for things that are held out here on the public streets that we're approving.
We give special event permits for, and so that's what raised this issue, when somebody said, well, I didn't see the special event permit, because it doesn't fit. A special event permit is for city streets, sidewalks, runs, we've done 2 of them tonight. But it's not this. This is, he can throw that party with or without us, he just can't violate our ordinances.
Well, you should have told us this before we ever put this thing up.
I mean, we're just getting done.
I mean, I don't.
I mean, we had to get to this point at some time to say we can't have these experiences, things like that.
If we don't get to choose private citizens that we will allow out of our ordinance.
And I'm kind of with Mark on this also. We're kind of giving you some leeway. At that 70, you can get to here or there. You raise it, and we say we don't have a leeway anymore. I think it'll be better. I don't know, Mark, I think
We've already received a ticket for a 2-man acoustical act. While I understand that there will be leeway, we just know we're gonna have shows bigger. I've heard what you said, so I don't need to go any further, but we realize we can have it, we're just trying to take the right steps, and we appreciate it all the time.
Okay. Anybody else have?
Doesn't sound like anything, motion we can make.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's not a public hearing, it's just a request from a business owner to be on the agenda. So, any other comments from the board? Okay, sorry.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Griffin. Consider a request for Sunday work by Southern General Contractors for the striping of various city streets. Brianna?
Motion made.
Second.
I appreciate it.
Motion second.
Go ahead.
Southern General is asking to be able to work on Sunday morning to finish some striping. We've got them touching up our crosswalks, and with traffic, they just can't
All
get
right.
it done during the week.
Is there a motion?
Yeah, Rick's already done it.
Oh, I'm sorry, in a second. I was listening to Rihanna's presentation, you goofballs. I'm sorry. All in favor? Any opposed? Consider change order number 2 from Phillips Construction for the East Jackson Streetscape Project.
Yes, last meeting, you approved the supplemental agreement, which was the contract change. This changes the money formally. It's a decrease of $13,241.
All in favor? Any opposed? First reading of the proposed ordinance amending section 225 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Oxford, Mayor, Board of Aldermen, compensation.
Sorry.
One more. 29.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought that's what we just did. Consider a request for revocable license for a monument sign on the city right-of-way on University Avenue at the University Avenue Shopping Center. Rihanna.
Yes, a University Shopping Center has asked to install a monument sign on the right-of-way there. They've stated in their request that they cannot place the sign on their property because they had to include consideration of the tree roots of the tree there on the right-of-way, that they had limitations because of the sidewalk associated with the tree and protecting that area, and the design constraints, which I think are of everything, probably the most, they were constrained because they did not just start over from scratch. They had an existing UPS store that they kept in service and other things, and so they're stating that those are the reasons that they're not able to place the sign on the property, and so they're asking permission to place a monument sign. They have not submitted a design for what the sign would actually look like yet. Your packet includes just a standard exhibit, but they've not submitted anything yet to planning, and so they've not received a permit or any approvals, but they're requesting a revocable license to place the sign on the right-of-way.
You good with it?
I am against any placements on the right-of-way.
I forgot.
Always.
Last time I asked you that, you said that.
I am. I will say that this is outside of the clear zone, so it's not within an area of immediate concern. If a car leaves the road, they've got the appropriate space to recover before they would impact the sign. So may have to hit a tree before they can get there.
It's not too far from the old monument.
I know. So moved.
Second.
Those are begrudging.
Well, we've done it so many times.
I know. All in favor? Any opposed? First reading of the proposed ordinance amending section 225 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Oxford, the Mayor and Board of Aldermen compensation.
Who's doing this one?
I don't know.
I was about to say, I'll do it.
The changes to, you have the copy of the ordinance in front of you. The changes to the ordinance are actually begin in section B, and it changes to the annual salary of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen shall be set as a line item in the annual budget of the City of Oxford by a motion and a majority vote. C was completely stricken and added in addition to the requirements to be above, and at least 1 year prior to the election of the new administration, the Mayor and Board of Aldermen shall meet in open session to consider appropriate level of compensation, that should say, for the next administration. And then D is totally new. During any consideration for change of any compensation under section B or C above, the Mayor and Board of Aldermen shall take into consideration pay increases for other city employees, consumer price index, compensation paid to elected officials in comparable communities, and any other factor that mayor and board consider pertinent. This subsection does not impose any obligation upon the board and mayor other than to review at least once every 4 years the level of compensation paid to elected officials. Those are the changes, pretty simple. I'll answer any questions that I can.
Motion made.
Well, it's just a first reading, so.
Can I have a second reading?
First reading, so we will have a second reading at the next meeting. All right, and public hearing, yes. Consider a resolution of the mayor and board of aldermen declaring a portion of the improved right-of-way of East Jackson Avenue surplus and consider revocable licenses for the use of surplus property. Mark Levy, who has worked, I don't know, 500 hours on this project, so thank you very much for your work. The board doesn't see all this work that goes on in this building, and I cannot tell you the number of hours that Mark Levy has spent meeting with different restaurant owners and with obviously our engineers and planning folks, and just he has really managed this project well and kept people well communicated with, and I thank you.
Thank you. So tonight we have 3 items to consider related to the outdoor and retail dining program. The first is to consider the resolution to surplus the city right-of-way on East Jackson. And all this information is in your packet. So for the newly improved areas, we're asking for surplus, and you can see this on the schematic, the diagram above. The area in yellow is the area that was all improved on the East Jackson project. And so again, the resolution is to surplus that, which will allow the businesses to license that space if they choose to. If the business does not choose to license it, it will remain part of the city's right-of-way, and we will continue the maintenance of that area. So if you agree to surplus these areas, the next step would be to license this area for outdoor commerce. And a couple notes about the license agreement. So in your packet, you have the resolution, which is the first attachment. The second one is the actual license that the businesses will consider. So a couple of notes about those. The license is revocable anytime at the pleasure of the board. The license renewable annually. The license is charged based on the square footage price, and the license include maintenance and insurance clauses to protect the city's interests. And the business are also required, even though they have a license, to get a shared space permit that Ben, the planning department's been working on. And also, if they wish to serve alcohol, they have to have an ABC permit. So all that is detailed in the license agreement there. So tonight, consider the resolution, and then also consider the actual license. What we need to determine is the value per square foot of the areas. And each one of the areas, we have sections A, B, and C, as you can see up here, have a square footage of the total allowable area. That does not mean that the business have to use the entire area, because we're going to base on per square foot, so they don't have to use that area. That's just as much as we can allow based on the surplus resolution. The graphic shows the total square footage in front of each business. The square footage range from 50 square feet, like in front of Hot Works right there, it's about 47 square feet, to over 800 square feet, which is area B3, which is the corner bar and rafters. I put a sheet in front of each one of your desks. It's this almost legal sheet here that has a couple different options on price per square foot. So we were required to get 2 appraisals, which we've already done. The average of those 2 appraisals is $14.75. One of them was $12 per square foot, and I think the other was $17. So that was done a few months ago.
All right, I got questions.
Yes.
Pope, in this licensing, are they going to be required to pay taxes for that space? Property taxes for that space? Seeing that they're licensing city property.
I don't know the answer. I hadn't thought about that.
I was going to say, it's the first time we've heard that question.
Taxes on all proceeds and income that they realize.
Sales tax, 2% tax, whatever.
But whether they'll pay taxes on the square footage, I think we're still the owners, but I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
Yeah, we're just leasing it, so
we're not even leasing it.
But we need to.
Just a license to use it, so I would think not.
But we need to consider that fact in our price per square foot, because
But I
usually.
don't think that we will. have to charge it if we're licensing.
I'm not saying that
for
we should
use.
charge it, I'm just saying we need to consider that fact in our price per square foot, because usually in a commercial space, your square footage can charge, your common area maintenance, which is your taxes and your insurance, is included either in your price per square foot, or you take a $3 a year, pro forma of $3 for your taxes and your insurance. So we need to be thinking about that when we're doing this price per square foot, because, I mean, to me, $20 a square foot is a deal still on this.
Yeah, and y'all,
And not only that, the other thing that you said, Mark, was they don't have to use the whole space. I think we need to come up with an actual space that we're renting,
That is it,
so we're renting that whole thing.
if they would like to, per square foot. That's available for them to determine how many square feet they would like to
But they're
use.
determining how many square feet they use.
But they gotta take
no, they gotta take it.
They gotta take the whole thing.
Yeah.
No, that's not what we've said.
Y'all would carve out a smaller size if you wish.
Yeah, if they wish to do 2 cafe tables at their front window with a entry thing around it, then we would lease them that space.
That's, to me.
Or they could do the whole space.
To me, I think you have to set the whole space, whether they use the whole space or whether they use 2 cafe windows, because you're taking that ability away. I mean, if it's a licensing, if you go like this and you go like this and you just that much, they can say, all right, I'm gonna take a 20 square foot area and then get a better deal. And we've spent over $1 million getting this. We need to be able to recoup some of our money, but we need to do it in a way. I want to know that if we're looking at 30 square feet, or are we looking at 300 square feet? Does that make sense?
And that should impact your price per square foot.
But it tells you on this chart, based on prices, the square footage.
But you're, in leasing, if I rent somebody
Then they could determine that
1,000 square foot office, or I rent somebody 4,000 square feet,
takes this whole area.
4,000 square feet can get a better per square foot rate.
Yeah.
And so I think it's kind of.
Require them to police the whole thing.
But Jason, to that point, if the board were to decide, we'd be as happy with the leftover being green space where we could put benches people could sit, and you want to leave the smaller section, and you think it's more valuable, y'all are in the catbird seat here. You can charge more for a small one if you wish. You just can't charge less than the appraised value, because you've got no obligation to rent it even once you declare it surplus.
That's why I'm saying, let's not make a motion tonight to say, hey, we're gonna charge $23 a square foot. I think we need to see what they want and then determine based on the need.
Well, they've got to know kind of a dollar amount to know what they want, I think, Jason, and some.
I think it's a range.
It is, it's chicken and egg, I don't. And Ben and,
That's what I was gonna say.
we already have restaurants that are waiting to get going, like they are hopeful that we will pass tonight what the rate will be, so that tomorrow they can do these revocable licenses, so that they're in business by the first.
Then we need to decide how much space, if we're gonna require them, area B3 is 811 square feet. Are we gonna require them to rent the whole space, whether they use it or not? My personal belief is that we ought to require them to use rent the whole space, whether they use that or not.
Keep in mind, they're working on designs, and a lot of their use of space is based on their design, so we have some control. I mean, if we deny their design and tell them they need to add, we can work with them. I think that dictates the use of space.
I know, you just said that they could change their square footage.
I'll give you an example.
And that's the way we've talked about it so far, is they can determine, that's the most you can rent, but you can, if you want to do a smaller space.
So what kind of boundaries are we gonna put up if they say I only want 5 feet?
We're not putting anything up, they have to. Ben has written those design guidelines we approved a few weeks ago.
Example on B3, so Tango, or Raptors is upstairs, it has a 10-foot wide door. So there's an opening through the surplus area on B3. So he would, he could rent He could rent that western portion of it, he could rent 500 and still leave that alley, and that would still be ours to maintain, it would just be public right of way. So that you don't have to enter in his.
But it's his,
Just
I mean,
walk up
it's
the
its
stairs.
exclusive, well, it's also an exclusive use as well. I
It
mean,
wouldn't have to be, it could be, but if he does.
And the
not
reality
do
of it is that it would be if it's just to the entrance of that business.
Yeah,
all I'm saying.
that's one of the reasons I think that Jason actually is correct on, can't believe I'm saying this. That Jason is correct on the entire part, because like, for example, the rafters, if he says, well, I don't want this front area. Well, all these people are still gonna be standing
They're
there.
gonna be standing there.
They just couldn't drink, I mean, they couldn't serve.
I mean, I think it's,
That's the only-
I think we need to define an exclusive use area for area B3 is an exclusive use. Within that exclusive use, you're allowed to do this, 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 and this.
Assuming you meet all agency regulations,
Right.
laws and all that.
But we have set those guidelines. What he just said is what I don't want to happen is that area gets reduced down based on the square footage that they come up with on their plan. If we're offering you area B3, it's 811 square feet. That's it. If you want it, take it, don't.
Yep, and that works.
We don't need to make that area.
Unless you have now eliminated them from utilizing some of these groups that are like, I don't need Hot Works. They say, I'd like to put a rack out and rent, some square footage to put a rack of clothes out, because it's not just dining, it's shops as well. We're gonna make them rent the whole square footage when all they wanna do is put out one rack of clothes, you see what I'm saying? That's why we had talked about it was you determine your square footage. What you're saying makes total sense to me, but
I think we need
I'm
we need to separate a rack based off.
Well, we have to charge them the same, and so that's why, we were saying they would rent this much
But
square
I mean,
footage.
Hot Works 47 square feet, that's what, 4 by 10, that's about like a rack.
Okay, but in front of the other venues on the square that pull out sidewalk sales on a regular basis. That's,
This thing's going from dining to, I think we're complicating that part of it.
By law, we've got to charge them the same, so that's.
But we're not surplusing around the square.
You're doing D squared and Hot Works. And if they pay to have sidewalk sales, then everyone will have to pay to do sidewalk sales.
Then we got a surplus around this whole square.
I don't believe you do. I posed clearly in a different conversation, but.
Yep.
And get everything moving. I think you surplus, if they want to rent, it's their fund space, and if you give them pieces and parts, okay, I'm gonna move out, where my building's going to be, leave a space in between, so.
No, they can't do that. It has to be adjacent per the design guidelines. It has to be adjacent.
I still think it's an all or nothing, you rent the whole thing. Or it stays open space for the public to use.
That's right.
Mark and Pope, is there something to add that we need to consider?
I'm raising the issue, and it sort of dovetails with Jason's questions, but as I understand it, these licenses are, once y'all have a price, then you've got to decide, and that's y'all's decision, whatever you decide to do, that then these are contracts, basically. They're rights in real property, or not rights in real property because they're a licensed contract, right? That you will be individually entering into with everybody. And I think the proposal was you put it on the consent agenda because you've already passed the form of the license, you passed the price, you know what that's going to be. And I'm good.
Go ahead and pass the price.
But I'm just saying, it's not going to happen tonight anyway.
Okay.
Because, we're not handing out licenses to anyone until you all authorize whoever's asking for that license and say yes, whether by consent agenda or otherwise, or special meeting. But nobody's going to start building a wall before they've got a license. Or I don't think they.
But if they, let me throw this in there though, Pope, and Ben may have to come up and address this. What we had discussed both with ABC and just in our internal meetings is that several of these folks, we've adopted the design guidelines. So those are in place. So they have known what the design guidelines were. So they are, I think there are several that are moving ahead with their whatever their proposed design is that are hoping to be up and going before the first football game. Well, if we kick this down the road and say, okay, well, it'll be on the consent agenda 2 weeks from now, they will not be up and running by the first football game. It's in our best interest for them to be up and running, because that's extra sales tax and 2% tax that we're generating on additional space. So I don't know if Ben wants to.
Yeah, I'm all for it.
We could have a call-in.
These are agreements between a private party and the city. They're not just a blanket ordinance that passes to everybody. Whenever you.
Then we can do it via special meeting. I mean,
But
whatever.
basically, you're saying in that special meeting, we would basically see, like, say, 8 different licenses right there that we would approve.
That's it, that's
Okay.
right.
Yeah,
But.
So we need to come up with a price tonight, though, right?
That's what I'm hopeful of,
If
yes.
you got a price, then they can say, well, I'm not doing that, or I am doing
right,
that.
exactly, yeah.
But we also need to specify that you're paying for, you know, if it is area B3, you're paying for 811.9 square feet.
Yeah.
Correct.
Whether you want to use 200 or 811.
Correct.
Your price is the
The
same.
license design, you fill in the square footage, you can fill in the price, just multiply it out. So if you're gonna require the whole area, you just need to know that, otherwise.
But that's exactly,
That's why I
exactly the point I'm making. There's gotta be a meeting of the mind on all those things before y'all say,
We approve the license. Yeah.
Yes,
I
okay.
mean, I'm just looking at the square footage though, and I know we have to charge everybody the same, but when you look at D squared has 420 square feet in front of a retail store. And that's gonna cost them
$700 a month.
or more, depending on the price that we
Yeah, and that's-
set. So $750, $800 a month.
So they're gonna say no, thank you.
They're gonna say no, thank you, but then they can't set a rack out at all.
That's right, and that's not really,
And that's not, I don't think that's fair. I think
either.
there ought to be, I think if you want to rent a section of that and you don't take the whole section, then it's $30 a square foot if you carve out a section.
That's what I was saying, is I think a rack and a dining area is a different thing. So I think we ought to look at that differently.
but I don't think we can we, Poe?
sure you can.
Oh,
I
you
think,
can-
I
okay,
think,
I thought
I think if we
could-
say,
As
I
long
think
as
if,
you meet the basic appraised value, if y'all decide this is
Okay.
the primo heart of the watermelon and I'm gonna charge more for it, you're the landlord, you can charge more for it.
I think if they take the whole space, it's ought to be $23 a square foot. If they take a portion of the space, it ought to be $30 a foot.
All right.
I think that's high.
Or 27 a foot.
No, it's not, John. It's not. I mean, you're getting no taxes, on the space. Up here on the square, $23 is a fairly average number, per square foot rent. So
But that's rent that's utilized all day, every day. This won't be.
I disagree that
It's
that-
taken out of the city's use though, all day, every day.
Yeah.
I mean, once it's,
established, it's out of the city's use. I mean, it's an exclusive use to that
Okay,
business.
The next question, who's gonna police they're just gonna put barriers up or whatever it is,
They gotta have a design.
a design.
It's gotta be approved, it's gotta go through planning.
And they've
Once
already been-
planning is ordinance review and everybody, there's
So
a.
once they let us know how much square feet they wanna use, then they'll have the,
they'll go through the planning process for an addition,
Okay.
which we've already adopted the guidelines for. And they've said,
design
you know,
based on a reduced.
And it's
square footage.
revocable.
They may say we want the whole thing.
all right, I'm good.
If they don't do what they say they're gonna do, we revoke the license and it's over.
Mark, I hate to, just a suggestion, y'all could say, as long as you take up to 80% of it, it's $23 a square foot. If it's less than that, you need to come to us and we will set that price.
I like that.
And that way, most everybody can go. If there's somebody who wants some smaller, weird-looking space first, this department can tell you whether they want to do that and make sure they like the design under the permitting process. and then set the price, and you may decide, well, this is only $1 or $2 per foot better, or 4 feet. But there's no reason, y'all trying to get this moving and find out who's in on the 23, go ahead and set that, and most of them will end up taking 100%, but that way you at least
I like that.
get close. Jason, I mean, I don't know if that gets your intent.
What?
I don't know if that gets to your intent.
It is. It is.
I mean, because a retailer to put a few racks out, or if the burger company wants to put a couple bistro tables out, you know, that can take 40 square feet. And you could do that. And you don't need it all. And I just think we need to give some leeway to those to the restaurants to take what,
but Mark,
be able to use what they need.
Two bistro tables, to me, is not in the design guidelines that have been set out. That's me personally. I just, you know, allowing 2 bistro tables to be set out in front of a restaurant is not. They got to go through the exact same guidelines that everybody
But there still might not be any more. I mean, they still have to have the barriers around it, et cetera. I think we just ought to leave some latitude to the business owner on how much space they can utilize and what their return on that investment is. Because
I still think
every store is different. I mean, we talked about retail versus
but I still think that
margins.
I still think though, for us, we're in charge of renting this for the citizens of Oxford. We need to know what space we're renting so we know what return we're gonna get.
I agree.
But he said if we lease less than 80%, they gotta come back before us.
That's
and then
fine.
we set the price.
And you set a price of $30 or whatever you want to set.
That's fine.
Based on the square footage there, that's how you negotiate any
So you're
lease.
saying $23 a square foot, or whatever, I think that's the number you
Yeah.
named. $23 a square foot if you take the entire
80%,
allotted,
80% or more.
Okay.
And then anything else is negotiated, anything under 80% is negotiated based on the space that they need.
Based on their
I want
application.
to make one point, or emphasize one point the mayor brought up about a retailer, you know, so it's not, I don't think we ever envisioned a retailer being able to take an entire large space and have a whole bunch of racks out there. The way it's envisioned is it's immediately adjacent to the building to provide for adequate accessibility, mobility around those racks, and we see a lot of racks and they're up against Hinton. Hinton has a couple, you know, right.
That's why I think we need a whole separate thing for.
That's a discussion for another.
Yeah.
Well, and that is why, to make sure that whoever comes to you is meeting your expectations. You don't have to grant these things, and that Ben said, yes, this is within our permit, this is what they were supposed to do, and it's a subset or whatever. That's why that needs to be a separate thing than just licensing anybody who puts down at $23.
And at this point, we've received three plans that we've evaluated at this point. So our office is ready to act once all of these elements are in place. So.
Okay, so let me make sure that I'm gonna pull us back in here for a second. As I understood it, there are really 3 things that this board needs to decide. The first is we need to declare that property surplus.
Only the yellow.
And so I think that that would be the first motion, if anyone's willing to.
Make the motion, we declare that property surplus.
It's in the resolution if y'all get there.
Okay, so do we need to adopt then the resolution that declares it surplus? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, say all the rest you were about to say, Mayor, because I think.
Well, the 3 things that I thought that we needed to approve are the declaring it surplus. We need to determine that we are going to offer revocable licenses, and we need to decide what the price is.
And all that would be in the resolution.
Okay. But we need to insert what the price is in the resolution. It isn't currently there. So if anybody wants to make a motion that we adopt the resolution, which declares property surplus, establishes revocable licenses, and says that if you rent 80% or more of the allowed space in front of your business, that it's $23 a square foot. Did I get that right?
Right, the 23 square foot would be in the license itself, the declaration of surplus, and that you want to grant licenses are in the resolution.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll make that motion to allow for
For the what?
To declare the,
I
to
read the
declare the,
code, so I was like, what?
declare the area surplus, and that we allow for revocable
Revocable
license,
licenses.
and then we set the rate at $23 a square foot at 80% or less.
And Jason, can you say
More.
as stated in the resolution?
As stated in the resolution.
Y'all got that in writing.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Any opposed? Great.
I'll talk to them and then we'll have to come for a special meeting.
That's right, we'll call a special meeting next week as soon as we need to. No, that's fine, everybody's gonna need to be available either by phone or what have you, and we'll get it all to you.
Are we gonna look at temporary for the Eat in the Street on the 28th? That was the third thing I had.
Yes, you're right. So we met with ABC and Kenny and Chief McCutcheon the other day to talk about the Eat in the Streets, which is August 28th. We will not have all of these things in place, as that's a week and a half from now. ABC stated that the businesses that are along this street where the stage will be could apply for a temporary permit for that date and those times, that we could provide. I said, we're not doing those metal barriers again ever, but the stanchions, you know, either the rope or the ones that we have that pull that we have at the conference center, to mark off those spaces for those businesses, and ABC would then have to give them the permit. But he indicated that if they were adjacent to the building, as they were temporarily for outdoor dining, that those would be granted. Would you all entertain the idea of granting those businesses? And, you know, again, we were thinking it would kind of be the same square feet that we had, I mean, whatever square footage they wanted to rent, but there needs to be a fee for that day. It's not free to do that, and it can't be free to do it. It has to be at least $14 and whatever a square foot. Am I correct on this? Okay, they won't have tables and chairs and be serving food and that kind of thing probably out there. But you can't have the alcohol in the street, so it would allow people to be out there to hear the band, but it would be policed by each individual establishment.
Well, if they hadn't had all their stuff set up, can we not just do it for the $14.75 and make it,
Totally up to you. I mean, I think some of them
I think without all the stuff.
the few that have got their stuff together may, you know, there may be one or two that do, I don't know, but.
I think you're gonna have everybody with their tables out there, they're gonna make as much as they can off.
it's pretty soon.
It is pretty soon, so it's, you know, what they are going to have up is not going to be
Yes,
Yeah.
one day only.
one afternoon.
Let's do $14.75.
They have to apply for ABC by this Thursday.
But ABC has to know immediately who's interested, and to know if they're interested, they need to know what we're charging them.
I move we charge $14.75.
Second.
For how many square feet?
Whatever they need that day.
Whatever they want.
Okay. All right, so $14.75 a square foot for whatever area they choose to utilize, so we'll have to go back to them with that, Mark.
$14.75 is an annual fee, so divide that out for
Kenny,
one day, right?
Kenny, are you wanting
Make that
all
clear, right?
people to participate, or is that what you're?
I mean, that's the goal, but I don't think everybody's gonna be ready.
It's annual, yeah.
Participate. We talked to a couple who, you know, are very hopeful that they can, but I think that there's some that are ready to go, you know, and stay open even the Sunday after. But I didn't know about that would happen, you know. So I don't know if they would, if the special meeting was before that, and they could just get all their plans approved and get it worked out. Does that make sense?
Yes, but we can't charge lower. Pope?
You cannot charge lower, but it is,
So one day temporary.
it's prorated to whatever it is.
Yeah, we just can't charge lower than the $14.75.
Yeah.
I know, I'm just seeing if we could do it like a dollar, but we can't.
You can't donate public property.
Right. Okay,
I learned that the hard way.
yeah.
Okay, so then we need a motion of what that one day event will be.
Well, that's what I said.
Yes. Second?
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. All
Mark, that comes
right,
out to about 4
That
cents
is
a day.
$14.75, whatever that breaks down to.
divided by 300.
365.
Yes.
That's four.
577 square foot area is $23 for that.
All right, consider an addendum to the video service agreement of 2009 between the City of Oxford and Bell South Telecommunications. Bart.
You've got a copy of the, and I didn't know I was doing this one, so you do have a copy of the video services agreement and the addendum in front of you. The real change is an extension of 10 years. Their agreement actually expired December the 31st of 2019. We want to re-up it and extend it till December the 31st of 2029.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Any opposed? I'd ask the board to consider an executive
Move
session.
and consider executive session.